What's up everyone, my name is RoyaleRebelle, and in this video I'm going to share my top 5 tips for buying cosplays online. So a little bit of background about myself. I've been a cosplayer on and off since 2015, but more consistently so the past 3 or 4 years. And I don't always have the time or the energy to make cosplays like I want to. So this does mean I buy the vast majority of the cosplays I do online. Fortunately for you, that means I've learned a few tips or tricks on what to look out for when it comes to buying cosplays online, and I'm here to share that with you. Something that makes my tips stand out a little bit more is that I've been plus size my whole life, and so I've learned to work with more limited options than the average cosplayer, and that's helped me get even more insight on what to look out for. Now, some of these are going to sound really basic, but they're important basics. If manufacturers can't even hit the bar with providing this information, there's a good chance that something more is going on and that cosplay might not be worth buying. But with that being said, let's get started. So first things first, know your measurements. I cannot express how important it is to know your measurements. Most sizing charts will show the bust, waist, and hip measurements, but some might also include your shoulders. And when you're potentially ordering clothes from Asian markets, it's not always enough to know what your standard size is. But if you're like most women, you know that standard sizing doesn't really mean a whole lot. So there's that. But a lot of cosplay manufacturers, they play fast and loose with sizing just like regular retailers. And this is probably the most important tip because it's something you need to know in general to kind of follow up with the other tip. And if you're shopping on a marketplace like Amazon, AliExpress, or Etsy, make sure the individual listing has its own size chart. So like, just as I touched on, cosplay sizing is just as regular retail sizing. Sites like Amazon, they might have a quote-unquote standard size chart, but that doesn't mean the merchants are following it. Most of the time you can find, the merchant specific size chart either as an image within the product images or within the product description below. If you can't find it in either of those places, try to reach out to the manufacturer. Amazon has the ability for you to post questions on their listings. Places like Etsy, you can message the manufacturer directly. It's really just going to depend on the platform how you can reach out about sizing. But if you cannot get an answer on sizing, walk away. I know it might be painful. I know there might be a cosplay that you really want, but trust me, it's not worth the headache to return a cosplay that doesn't fit properly. Third, I would look for customer-based reviews. Amazon makes this so easy by placing them at the bottom of the listing. And while these customer images might not be the greatest quality, it should still get you a decent idea of what the cosplay looks like in reality versus the production photos. For sites like CosSky, Heroes Time, Mick Costumes, etc., that don't have places for consumer reviews, I would recommend checking out YouTube for reviews. In general, if you know the name of the manufacturer, there's a good chance you can find reviews of their products online. Now, this might not give you the exact cosplay you're looking for, but it should still give you a general idea of the overall manufacturing quality. There's also the option of online forums. I've learned a decent amount of what sites to avoid either by reading what other people have posted or just asking questions myself. Most cosplayers love talking about cosplay, so asking questions is never a bad route. And today, there are so many places to connect with cosplayers online. There are plenty of options you can get about different manufacturers, or even just shopping for your specific style or size in general. Facebook groups happen to be my go-to because I'm a part of a cosplay group based on where I'm from, based on plus size cosplayers, and just like a general national cosplay page. Reddit can be a little tricky because of the number of trolls that are out there, but if you can look past the trolls, it's still not a bad place. But if someone's had an awful experience with a manufacturer, better to learn about it before you give them their money than having to go through the hassle and headache of dealing with them after the fact. And my fourth tip is, when in doubt, size up. I know this will further limit my fellow plus size cosplayers out there, especially if you're larger than a size 18, which is basically all of plus size cosplayers. But this is the unfortunate truth of mass-produced cosplays at this time. In my experience, cosplays are more likely to run small than run big or even true to size, even with a published size chart. And this really only gets worse if you have specific problem areas. So like me, I have issues with my chest and my arms. They run a little bit bigger than what normally aligns to my size. And I would also apply this tip when it comes to custom ordering. If you have concerns about a manufacturer, if you have concerns about a manufacturer running small, give them a couple inches to the measurement. Another reason for this is because if it comes in too big, it's much easier to tailor down something to be smaller than it is to make it bigger, and I know this from personal experience. Now, my final tip is to don't be too cheap. Now, I know this might sound a little elitist, but trust me, I know what it's like to be a broke cosplayer and wanting to afford better items and not being able to, but there is such a thing as too cheap when it comes to cosplay. Now, what's poor quality and what's too cheap, this is going to vary by item and this is going to vary by person. So I personally have different baselines for wigs than I do accessories than I do clothing pieces. So just an example, I don't buy wigs that are less than $20, and I don't do that because I've never found a usable wig that was priced below $20. They almost always end up being a waste of money because they were so cheap. And what your baseline is going to depend on what you're willing to put up with. You know, some cosplayers might go cheaper on tops than others because they don't mind putting layers underneath. But if you don't have good garments to layer under your cosplays, you might want to spend that extra money to avoid thin fabric. Other cosplayers, they might not mind wearing separate shoes on their spandex suit, but some see the value in the additional cost to have the shoe built into the suit. It really just depends on your budget and what your needs are and what you're willing to put up. But there we have it, my top 5 tips for buying cosplays online. What do you guys think? Do you have any tips that you would like to share when it comes to buying cosplays online? Leave them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more cosplay content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so I can bring you more content. And if you want to check out my socials, I also make content on TikTok, Instagram, and more, all of which can also be found in the description below.